Welcome to the Mother May I podcast with Frank and Irene on Strong Island Entertainment. Gee, I hope I didn't make a mistake with these two. They promised me they'd bring in some really good guests. Well, anyway, here's Frank and Irene.
Hey. Irene, are you there? What's going on?
Okay. What's going on?
Me? Why aren't you
Oh, okay. What happened?
I don't know.
I can't hear anything. This is a great start to the show, by the way.
You can't
This
hear
is
me?
fantastic. My mic is completely cut out. Is there a reason for this? Okay, well, Frank, you have your mic is working, right?
Yeah, can you hear me? You can
you hear me?
Maybe let me check my
I don't understand. My mic was working, now it's not working. This is fantastic.
I mean, I can hear you.
Bobby, can we get some input? Hear both of you. Why can't I hear anybody? This is crazy.
Let me bring myself on the screen.
Okay, Frank, you're going to have to hold this while I shut down and bring it back in again, buddy.
Okay.
Thanks, sweetie. Love you.
So
Okay.
Irene, we heard Irene, Frank, but she couldn't hear us. But her mic was on. I don't know what happened, but
Oh, okay.
her come back in.
I'll show everybody my cat.
Oh, there we go.
There's Millie, everybody.
Millie?
Millie is making a rare on-screen appearance.
Nice.
Yes.
So how old is Millie?
Millie is about 13, I think.
Oh wow, okay, that's as old. My dog's 13. So
Yeah, she's getting on. She had some medical issues this past year, but she's doing great now, and she's living her best pandemic life. She loves the pandemic.
oh yeah.
Lockdown, because it's so relaxing for her. She doesn't nobody ever comes. She hates company. She so no one has come to the house in over a year, and she loves that.
So she looks cute. My dog's 13, so she's kind of on her way, but
Yeah, 13 is but they can live to be like 18 or 20 sometimes, so still got some years left, I think.
yeah.
And have you had the dog for the whole time?
I adopted her from the North Shore Animal League when she was like 6 months old. She was half pit and half, we think, German Shepherd, but yeah, she was kind of like stranded and I guess somewhat abused. So I took good care of her, but like we were talking about with Irene before, like she's not a very affectionate dog. So yeah, something happened. So she's awesome, but she's just not a cuddler. She doesn't like close she kind of gets a little weird. So other than that, let's see if we got Irene.
Oh, I thought you were talking about me because I fucking hate cuddling, okay? And I came in the middle of that.
Yeah, we brought you up because my dog was abused when I got her. She's 13. She doesn't like getting close or cuddling.
Yeah.
So something happened. So, she's great and everything, but she doesn't like to get close. So
Irene, while you were gone, I treated the audience to Millie.
Oh, Millie, I could just do this. You know what, Frank? I can literally just do an hour on Millie, just gazing into her beautiful eyes. Look at her. Look at her. This is a cat that I've never really met in person before. Because
nobody ever meets her in person.
Yeah, never. So I always thought
she only does Zoom calls.
She only does Zoom calls. Exactly. She thinks the rest of us are douchebags and not worthy of beating her.
Let me let you guys go. Let me let you guys go. I just want to apologize to the audience for the technical difficulties, but we're back with Frank and Irene. Mother May I podcast. Dustin Chafin.
That's right. That's
in the waiting room, so it's going to be a great show. So guys, do your thing.
Okay, thanks, sweetie. I think, thanks so much, Frank. I don't know what happened, but of course, my computer works the whole time, and the minute we are about to go on, it just cuts out. And this is not fun for you because, first of all, you're still in Facebook jail, I see, which is, I think it's more like...
I was just released today or last night.
Oh, last night?
And yes, and I went back on Facebook and wrote a tirade against Mark Zuckerberg and Sheryl Sandberg because they're such fucking horrible people. So maybe I might get banned again.
I mean, I love the fact that the minute you're let out of jail, which is that really punishment? It's more like rehab. Facebook gets someone, but you get back on Facebook and the first thing you do is you fucking insult somebody. Sweetie, you had like a Millie fan just now. Somebody said, yeah, Millie is adorable.
Is a breakout star. You know, she has when I post a picture of her on social media, I can write the greatest joke ever. It won't get as big a response as just a picture of Millie.
It's just, exactly. Please. I've joked about that too. I could be naked on Instagram and Millie will get 5 million likes and I'll get like 5 sad faces, you know, but
I don't know how to work the emojis, or I would have given you the right one.
I love that we've never actually had anybody chatting into the show. And the only time we do is when we actually fixated the camera on Millie. It's hysterical.
Yeah, Millie is the only one.
She is the breakout star. Okay. No one gives a shit about what I have to say or what you have to say. They just want to gaze into Millie's eyes. That's what they want. Anyway, we've kept this guy. Oh my God. No, I can't. Look at those eyes. Hi, Millie. Hi, Millie. Oh my God, I love it.
She's actually disdaining you through the computer screen.
I bet she is. I can see it. Oh my God. I can't. Next time I come over, I'm going to have to demand a face-to-face with her, Frank. I don't know how we're going to do this.
That could be difficult.
Really? So she's still like that? Because I felt like when Barney was in the picture, she was just a little bit more...
No, when Barney was around, he was friendly. He would hang.
Yeah.
When I was recovering from my heart surgery, you and a bunch of my friends came over and visited, and Barney would hang out, and Barney was into it. He'd let people pet him and stuff. Millie, nobody ever saw Millie. She would just hide.
No one ever saw Millie. I've come several times, and I have never seen Millie ever. But it seems like Millie, maybe Millie was sort of like eclipsed by Barney. He was the social cat, and she was sort of more like antisocial, more like you, Frank. No, I'm just kidding. She's more like her dad. And now she's like coming out of her shell a little bit because Barney's not there to,
well, when she was, one time when she was much younger, I tried to pick her up to put her in the carrier to take her to the vet. And she scratched the shit out of me and ran and wouldn't let me touch her. And this was when I lived in LA. I actually hired someone to come over and help me get Millie into a guy who professionally wrangled animals, who got her, cornered her, and got her into the cat carrier.
Yeah,
that's the only way I could take her to the vet. But since then, she's changed, and she lets me pick her. She doesn't like being picked up, but I can pick her up and put her in the carrier and stuff like that now. And also because she was like that, when I moved from LA to New York, I was so worried about that. Like, how am I going to get her into a car? How am I going to take her on a plane?
Right.
And John Fugelsang was my cat travel whisperer. He traveled cross country with me as I took Barney and Millie. We both each had a carrier. We took them on the plane and flew to New York.
Wow, that is such a cool story. I can't believe it. Yeah, he seems like he's a cat whisperer. They just can't stand that little cat carrier.
They all hate it, and they cry and stuff.
They cry. They don't like it. I've tried to get my cat in. I had to put on gloves and try to get her to the vet, But wow. So at least she's adjusted. My cat never acclimated to the cat carrier. This is the kind of long-winded conversation you have when you don't fucking have kids. I just want to throw that out there. So I'm sure Dustin is having a blast backstage listening to us talk about cats. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up this man. I love him. He's awesome. He's a hilarious, great comic, great human being. Let's bring on Mr. Dustin Chafin, everybody.
Oh, my goodness. This is so exciting. A rare sighting of Millie. This is really fun, guys.
Sweetie, are you in the closet right now? This closet looks very high tech.
Closet? It's like a Asian thing. I thought
I read somewhere.
Like a decor. It's not a closet. That's a window. Who has a window in their closet?
Oh shit! Well, I can't see that. Yeah, right.
What kind of closet? Come on.
But wait a minute. I thought you had a studio built up in your closet.
That was too small. I tried that. LA.
Oh, okay.
LA has bigger closets and stuff. So the first day we moved in, I was like,
Yeah.
this will be great. I'll just do a studio in the closet. And then I got
Right.
I was claustrophobic. Like after the
Yeah.
first episode of some podcast, I was like, I can't do this because you got to close the doors.
Well, yeah.
Of stuff that's bigger in LA is I loved the Studio City Ralphs, like the gigantic.
Oh yeah, Rock and Roll Ralphs, absolutely.
With endless room, which you don't ever have in New York. Endless room aisles and just they take up a city block. Absolutely. And it's it's great. Whereas in New York, it's Gristedes, and it's like fuck you, get out.
Over fucking priced Gristedes. It is fucking Gristedes. So overpriced.
I feel like I pay my dues in New York. Like I just was there for over 20 years, and got mugged, saw a dead body, saw 10 Broadway shows, saw at least 3 penises on the subway. I felt like I finished New York. You know what I mean?
You finished New York nicely. You did. You finished it nicely.
As far as that dead body goes, don't forget you're the one that booked me into the Greenwich Village.
We miss you. We do. Back to what you were saying before. You were saying, I guess Millie doesn't. If you were naked on the internet, Irene, I'm sorry. I think you would crush Millie. I'm sorry. Millie's cute. Millie's pretty cute. I'm just letting you know.
There was this story today on Twitter. Speaking of being naked on the internet, which we were, so I think I'll bring this up. There's this guy. He's like a literary figure. He's the editor of Believer magazine, which is a literary magazine, and he's head of some literary institute. And he was having a Zoom meeting, with his staff or whatever, and he did it from his bathtub. Sitting in the bathtub, and then his computer. The battery, no, that would have been the better result. That would
have been the best ending, yeah.
Because what happened was his computer battery died, and he stood up to fix it, and everybody saw his
me too.
And he had to resign from his job today.
Oh my gosh, because he's an idiot. He's not even.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what? He's too dumb to have the job because everybody knows that your computer's battery, it's probably a glitch. So if you stand up to fix it.
And people are gonna get a seat, and it's like,
Yeah, how does that guy become a CEO? You know what I mean?
Yeah, how does that guy become a CEO? I'm sure.
I barely have $1,000 in my bank account. I would never do that.
I think you're right, Frank. The computer falling in the bathtub would have been a better ending.
It would have been better. Then no one would have seen anything. But and you know what? It isn't a case, I don't think, of sexual abuse. It's just a guy being an idiot.
Yeah. It's a case of insane stupidity.
But maybe that's his comfort zone. Stephen King writes in the bathtub. I read this whole thing on that's how he writes. He just put the.
Wait, how does he write? I want to hear this. I love Stephen.
He writes in the bathtub. He puts a board on. He used to do a lot of cocaine and then take a bath. I think he's sober now, but that was one of his processes. He would just be in the bathtub for hours, just like popping it out. But that's a typewriter, probably when that happened.
Yeah, typewriter back then. Right.
The movie Trumbo with Bryan Cranston is the screenwriter, Dalton Trumbo. That was a true thing that he did all his writing in the bathtub. And
oh wow!
Wow.
He had like a board. He wrote in longhand. He had a board, but he sat in the bathtub while he wrote.
Yeah, wow. I worked out bits in the shower. Yeah. What happened, Irene? I'm sorry.
Wait, I'm sorry. No, you go ahead. I want to know how you're doing. I want to know how you feel, how the shift for you is. How was it doing comedy in LA opposed to?
It's going great. I was just going to say that I work out bits in the shower. Like I'll do 15 in the shower. Like that's, some people sing in the shower. Some people write, great books.
It's true. You come up with great ideas in the bathroom and in the shower. And
when you're shitting, let's be honest, Frank.
What it is, I think, is like if I'm like sitting and writing, and I'll be concentrating, and then like I'm not coming up with something, and then like I'll have to go to the bathroom, and then when I go in, and then suddenly my mind is relaxed, and I'm not like trying so hard, then the idea occurs to me that I was looking for.
Yeah, it's also the ultimate solidarity. Like you're just nobody's going to come in, nobody's going to interrupt you. So
right.
Your phone usually.
Yes, normally.
Very cool. I love it. I love being here in LA. We, you know, we got a swimming pool and it's like all that fun. Yeah, we're living the life. We got a new car. Like we're almost adults. You know what I mean? Like
You're
it's
adulting.
different, almost. It's this different life.
So do you and I know you drive. Does Leah drive as well?
Yeah, she's from Maine. I'm from Texas.
Oh,
We've been driving since we were 14. Come on, man.
Well, you're going to hate the traffic there because that shit sucks, right? The traffic is terrible.
Whatever. I mean, you know, how many times I got to
my only experience of driving is in LA. That's the only place I've ever driven. I moved there when I was 40 and I didn't know how to drive because I wasn't brought up in Texas. I wasn't brought up in Maine. I was brought up in New York. Okay. And so I didn't know how to drive. Yeah. And I got my driver's license when I was 40. And that's where all of my driving took. And then since I moved to New York, I haven't driven. And I actually need to. My driver's license has expired now.
How was that? Just driving at that point in your life?
It was stressful, but I enjoyed it. For one thing, I got a convertible, which I think when you live in LA,
a midlife crisis car.
You gotta have a convertible.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
It was a red sports car, but there's nothing wrong with the size.
No.
But but as stressful as it was for me, it was more stressful for the other people.
On the road.
Every now and then, I would just be driving along. I had no idea what I did wrong. And then I just hear someone from another car yell, "Learn how to fucking drive!" You know?
Which is very New York. So that probably
very New York. That's something I might say. I'm such a dick when I drive. Road rage drives me insane. So Dustin, yes. I of course miss you, and New York is going to miss you because you're one of the sweetest, awesomest. I love you, and so many people do in New York. It's the truth. And but you were killing it, buddy, during COVID. Coming up with this fucking album that destroyed. I want to know all about it. I really do. Like, so what was the process?
Yeah. We, I decided, we went to Maine for a couple of months in the summer, and Leah Bonham is a great comedian, my love of my life, and we were with the in-laws, and they're potters, and they have this huge studio, and I spent a lot of time in there, just kind of thinking ideas and stuff, and then I did a lot of Zoom shows during the pandemic. I felt like the bar was so low with the Zoom shows that I was generating a lot of new material. Like I almost felt weird if I did an old joke on a Zoom show. Mm-hmm. So I would do 2 or 3 a week. And then next thing you know, it's like, man, I have quite a bit of material here. So I was just like, just kind of adding material and getting kind of more and more new stuff. And I just thought of the idea. I said, that would be cool to do something that hasn't been done. Maybe try a Zoom album or a special, see what happens. I talked to my label, the Comedy Records, and they were like, I don't know how that's going to sound. Like, it was all about the tech. I mean, you could barely get on this show. Mm-hmm. Zoom is not always your friend. So, yeah. And I didn't know how it was going to sound because you're just like, it's like sometimes it sounds like somebody's like a Darth Vader laugh, or is it going to, And the thing is, like when you do a regular, set or an album recording in a club, you worry if people are going to show up, or you're going to get heckled. And in a Zoom, you wonder if your internet's going to go out, if you're going to get penis bombed, so it's like different kind of anxiety. But we did 2 shows, and the whole thing went well. And my whole thing was, I know I can't do comedy in a comedy club for a while, so I need to find a way to generate some money. And I figured if I could just get something that was good enough and sounded good enough to put on Sirius, then I could be in the rotation and make a little bit of money and off Sound Exchange and all that stuff. And so my head just kind of, that was my survival mode as a comic. I was like, get an album on Sirius, it'll make money. And then it worked out. It sounded great. It's probably my best work. I just did a lot of stories about my family. I did some stuff in the pandemic, but it was a lot of stories because I feel in a comedy club, sometimes, you're not as vulnerable as you should be because it's just a 2-drink minimum crowd and they don't have the attention span for a story. Right. But on a Zoom, they're kind of locked in. They can't go anywhere. They're kind of like,
they're hostages.
It's so I really explored a lot of my life and just kind of, did a lot of stuff that maybe, I wasn't doing in comedy clubs. And and it was received well. A lot of people liked it, and I got it on Sirius, and it's rotation, so it was probably the hardest thing I've ever tried to do in comedy, just because of all the technical stuff about it, and just would it work? And Anthony Capfer, who's a great comedian, and he's a great guy. He's a music guy, so he helped me produce my first album, but he came in on this strong, and we made it sound good, and we diced it up and made it great, and it's just really happy with it. And it was kind of one of those things where who knows if it's going to work, and it did, and we kind of made history, and it was like something that hadn't really been done, and it was like, it was an authentic Zoom. I think one other comic tried to do a Zoom recording, but it was like he was on Zoom and everybody else was in one club. This was literally everybody was logging in from like Australia, Texas, England, New York. So it was like all over the place. It was like a traditional Zoom recording, and it was a lot of fun. And what was weird about it was just trying to be in the moment and make it feel like I was doing stand-up. So I had a huge green screen and all that stuff. I had a stool. And then one thing that was really funny, I was like, how am I going to feel comfortable? So my mother-in-law has tons of mannequin heads all over the house. It's terrifying. It's just terrifying. You turn a corner and there's just like this mannequin head with a wig. And then you turn another corner, there's one with a hat. So it's just like they're everywhere. So I said, you know what? I'm going to use these mannequin heads to kind of feel comfortable. So I lined them all up in front of the camera, the computer. And I was doing crowd work with them and playing with it. It's like I became like Jeff Dunham or something. But it was amazing how just a silhouette of a head made me feel, okay, I'm kind of, this is comfortable. And after like 6 minutes, I was just doing a set. And it was amazing how something weird like that kind of made me comfortable. Right. And, but it was really cool. It was a lot of fun.
It sounds really cool. And it sounds really great because I think a lot of us, as stand-ups, we'd want to go, like I had to put a one-person show together so I could tell stories. I think it's because you're right. They don't have the attention span in the comedy club. We have to get through it fast, and I always love the idea of doing a story. So you have to find where can I tell a story? So let me put this one person show together. And I love the fact that you use this time to actually be able to sit down and put this album out where you're telling stories. Because I love stories. They're my favorite. You know what I mean? We really get to know each person through their stories. So
they are different. They're kind of difficult for me because I'm kind of like Frank. I'm a joke slinger. I love the structure of a joke. And
me too. Actually, me too. Actually, I like telling traditional jokes too. But every now and again, but we can't do it in a club. I mean, Mr. Conniff over here is he is second to none when it comes to throwing out the fucking jokes.
Every now and then in New York, and in LA too, I'd get booked into a storytelling show that was specifically called a storytelling show. So then my job was to, how am I going to turn my jokes into a narrative? And then that's what I always do. Is just I just make my jokes seem like a story, and it was bullshit, But when the sets went well, afterwards, there'd always be people who would come up to me and say, "That was great. I really liked your story." I'm like, I just put my jokes together, but it worked though somehow.
It's weird how sometimes people say things to you that they kind of crush you and you weren't ready for them, but then you realize that they were the best thing somebody could ever told you. Vic Henley, who we lost right at the beginning of the pandemic, he was such a great storyteller and he was so good. I remember one time he said to me at a comedy club, he goes, you're more interesting than your act. And it was basically, the stuff I was doing was not, authentic to me as much. And so I had so much.
That's a great critique of someone.
It's like, he's not saying you're a shitty comic. He's just dude, just talk about your life. You have, that's really what he's saying. He's just, a little brat.
You're more interesting than your act. That's what he said. That's like when Lewis Black saw my act for the first time. I forget what he came into me and he goes, "You were shocking." That's what he said to me. And just like that. And I'm like, if I'm going to shock this fucking guy, Jesus, but
on the right track.
You're on the right track. But I think it's, Frank and I, we were talking about, like it was such a time that we could sit and write. And I think for me, I just came up with I wrote a whole new hour, which I haven't been really going out to hone. I've got upcoming gigs and stuff, but I thought we're coming out of this. I feel like it was a responsibility for me as a comic, personally, just me, to come out with new material. You know what I mean? Because I feel like, and Frank, of course, said this too, but Mr. Frank Conniff is so prolific. He's coming up with new material all the time. But for me, I've been doing my material, adding bits here, adding bits there. And I said, you know what? We had a collective near-death experience. It's time for me to sit down and talk about everything that's going down. And it felt really good to do that, just come up
absolutely. I mean, it was a big silver lining. Unfortunately, it's like all these horrible things had to happen to the world and people died for us to not be lazy. But
it's interesting too.
I got a new hour, so it was worth it.
Exactly.
Well, I think it's interesting too how, and in ways we can't even predict yet, like this whole pandemic is really transforming show business, like in ways we can't even know yet. But the way people think now, from now till last year, is just completely different. A year ago, or a year and a few months ago, none of us even knew what Zoom was. We didn't know what a Zoom show was. And even the idea of doing stand-up online like this was just crazy. It's like, necessity is the mother of invention, and now, and also with movie going too, with stuff that premieres now, streaming, it's everything is just transformed. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I have I was kind of hoping this would last a little longer. Like I enjoy, just doing a set on a Zoom because when you bomb on a Zoom, I mean, you don't have to sit with yourself on the subway. You know what I mean? Like
exactly. Exactly.
You can just put the computer down and then just go to the fridge. Like it's the commute.
And blame it on Zoom.
Yeah, the commute is amazing.
Blame it on Zoom.
Yeah, but I think it's going to transform. If most of the clubs are terrible. But I think hopefully some clubs kind of tech up, if you will. And we have, because I think if you're smart, you're going to have kind of a on-demand thing that's happening during the show. Because I think a lot of people are going to be shelter shocked. They're not going to want to go out. And so I think you have to kind of like expect that. And hopefully the clubs will stream stuff during live shows. And so people that aren't ready, like Lee and I do a show now called Club Shy Comedy, where it's a Zoom show. And it is basically for people who aren't ready, even though places are opening up. And I've been on the road a little bit, Texas and, Ohio and different places where they don't really care.
Yeah, right.
Like COVID didn't even happen.
I live on Staten Island. I know.
Yeah.
So would you like to come headline our super spreader event?
Yes, please come.
But that's how you know how addicted this craft is, that you're just like, I guess I'll risk my life, because you just need a weekend. The idea of 5 shows somewhere is just, it's too hard to. But plus, we were safe,
The idea of 33% capacity is exciting because I've never drawn that many.
Exactly. It equalizes all of us. Like we're drawing the same as Brian Regan. It's amazing.
Exactly. 30% is selling out now. It feels fantastic.
When people say that online, they're like, "We sold out." It's like, really? Are you saying you sold out? Shut up.
Yeah. Exactly. This makes everybody feel good. But I think you're right. I think a lot of people. I think comedy is going to change, and they are getting innovative. I did a show at Governor's like a month ago, and they really set it up nice where you walked in and the Zoom was projected everywhere, like you could see all the people with the stage and so I think they are preparing.
We'll see what happens during the shows, like when they are able to sell out again, because I know all this is happening like now. I'm just curious to like what's going to happen, because I still think certain people aren't going to go out. I don't know if I really care. Like I don't know if I'll ever go to a movie again for a while. Like I know the idea of being in a movie theater is amazing. Like they're playing Star Wars across the street. How great it would be for us to just go and see Star Wars on the big screen again or whatever. But it's like, that there's something that keeps me from doing it, because it's just the inside of just, and the thing what Frank was saying about HBO Max and stuff premiering. That is pretty amazing when a movie just premieres in your living room, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Unless it's Wonder Woman, and then not so much. But but you know, it's I'm curious to see where, you know, because I don't know if everybody.
It was a nice way, like things were coming back, like drive-in theaters. That was kind of fun. We were
They
doing
still have
things.
it out here. It's huge.
Yeah,
California,
you know. So I feel, and it's funny that the gigs that we hated the most became the gigs that we were doing, like outdoor gigs were like my fucking least favorite.
Yeah, my outdoor gigs I always considered a nightmare, but now it's
nightmare.
Well, I was doing parking lot shows before
parking lot shows, yeah,
before COVID. So that's where my career was headed. I was getting heckled by a Honda Accord, you know, 3 years before this happened.
So, people doing, and now that the weather's nice again, it'll probably start happening again. Is just you know, like I live next to Carl Schurz Park. I would just go for a walk there, and someone would be doing a stand-up show, you know, in the middle of the park. And I went, and these young comics, they were people I didn't know, and the one guy's there with a mic, and there's kids around. There's a playground. He's doing cunnilingus jokes. He's doing he's fucking filthy.
Yeah,
and like, dude, come on, you know, make
hilarious.
sense.
Yeah, so funny.
Oh my God, he probably put out a cup and made more money than I have in my whole fucking career. Trust me.
Well, I remember that movie Punchline. You know, that horror movie about, you know, stand up with Tom Hanks and Sally Field. I remember there was a scene in that movie. I always made fun of it where he's in the park doing comedy, like he's just thing, and I'm like, yeah, right. Like we do that. The lockers is one thing, but nobody's doing comedy in the park. And then this thing happened.
And then this thing happened. And now we'll do comedy anywhere. We're broadcast from our showers. You know, we know.
Yeah, clubs are doing them in the subway. Like that was the thing.
My favorite part of Punchline is Tom Hanks plays like this edgy, like Bill Hicks, like comedian, and he goes to see Sally Field to stand up, and she's doing like the hackiest shit you've ever heard about. How come the one wheel on the shopping cart always goes in a separate, and he's like on the floor laughing, like thinking how brilliant it is. That was my favorite.
Yeah, that movie has so many problems, but
God, yeah,
it's so funny.
But I think, you know, so we reinvented ourselves, you know, and now you, Dustin, you always wanted to move to LA. I remember having this discussion with you. Remember, you were going to move a while back and you didn't do it because you got a job offer here. And now you did it. I was like,
I kind of got some work out here, and it was just like, it was, you know, it just seemed like the right time. And I want to elevate, you know, I kind of want to do some other things. I don't want to just do stand up,
me too.
Writing and films and things like that. So, you know, I kind of want to, I feel like this is the place for that. And it's also, you know, coming in when we did, it was like buying stock low. I mean, nobody was here, like rent was cheap. Like we got a really nice apartment. I mean, it was like, it's twice as big as our apartment in Astoria.
Wow.
And, you know, I mean, we used to have we had a wall that was next to the bed. So somebody had to share the wall. Nobody could get out on both sides of the bed. And, you know, the bathroom, we had to, excuse me. And so, this was
so you have a really nice place now. You have a swimming pool. You're moving on up. It's amazing.
Yeah, nice neighborhood.
I mean, I lived in LA for like 17 years. You know?
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I always really liked it out there. And it wasn't even my idea to leave. Show business asked me to leave.
Exactly.
So I did. You know, actually, it was just that I wasn't getting any writing work out there, and then John Fugelsang offered me a job on.
I'm so glad he did. Or else I would have never met you.
But I didn't even want to come back to New York. But actually, once I did, like I've been so happy to be back here. But LA, I'm not one of these New York LA bashers. I like LA.
I just, you know, I'm loving it now, and I could see, you know, I was just there for so long, and so I feel like I enjoyed it when I was there, and now I want to enjoy this. And you know, that's the thing. Sometimes you buy a convertible, you know, a red convertible when you have a midlife crisis. Sometimes you just move to LA. So
sometimes you move to LA, but also living in LA and your space, you have more space now. You have all these things, you know what I mean? That's also going to be really great for you to like be more productive in terms of like wanting to do other stuff. You know, you want to you're not going to be getting up and doing spots all the time, but you're going to be able to.
Yes and no. I'm already a regular club. I get up 3 times a week already. I've been here a month.
Well, that's good.
I think people sometimes approach it differently, and I'm I'm a comedy survivor. Like I know how to play the game and also know how to do it on stage, which is a big deal. But but it was funny. I was doing a show the other night, and they're all still kind of outside this place that the Comedy Chateau, which is a great brand new club, which, you know, they're nice to comics. That's how you know they're a new club, you know. So, but they have this outdoor thing and it's fantastic. But it was funny. It was a rough crowd the other night, and it was like very diverse, North Hollywood. And a lot of the comics were having a hard time. And then I got up, and I've had so many shitty shows, very late shows in New York City.
Yeah,
firehouses where I had to follow raffles and Staten Island and crazy stuff.
Oh, please, I know.
So it was funny how my comedy training in New York really kind of, I stand out here because I know how to kind of go in and like pop the crowd. And so it's funny how, you know, it's like it really helps that I have that New York, you know, training.
Yeah,
camp, you know what I mean? If you can get up in New York, honestly, you know, because every time I've done comedy in LA, it was a lot easier because New York is such a boot camp place, you know.
Absolutely.
Right. And you know, when I first moved to LA, and I didn't move there from New York. I moved there from Minneapolis, where I'd been living.
Oh, I love Minneapolis.
And I came out like right at the height or maybe the beginning of like the whole alternative comedy movement, which I know was happening in New York too. And it was really happening in LA there. And I didn't even go into a comedy club for a long time. I did coffee houses and bookstores.
I did those in LA.
All kinds of alternates, but I did know it was kind of like a very sheltered environment for some comedians. I knew some comedians who had never been in a real comedy club, and also who would never perform for people they didn't know already.
Yeah. Also,
it's a very like cliquey kind of thing, and so people would do you know, inside jokes about the other comic that everybody else knew. And they were ill prepared for the real world of
and you know what, Frank? That's a really good point, because I remember when I started comedy years ago, we're talking 20 years ago, and we would have LA comics come to New York. They wouldn't even write a set list. It was that inside joking thing. And I'm like, you don't have a set list. You need structure. I feel like New York always had structure.
And that was a big thing at the time too, in LA at least. And I'm talking about the early 90s.
Yeah, me too. Like
early to mid 90s. And there was a real kind of disdain for material, you know, and like there were people who got up and their whole thing was, I do a completely different set every night. It's always, and a lot of people would just like read from their journal of what happened.
Oh yeah! Oh my God! Frank,
journal. But I tried telling some of them, you know what? You're not going to develop you have to do material over again, because you have to have a second draft. You have to have a third draft.
You have to own it.
You do. I also feel there's kind of a double-edged sword with that, because I feel in New York, it's almost too much of that, where I feel like you know, you're only as good as your last set. You know, everybody, you know, you'd follow guys like Greer Barnes, who's been doing the same act for a while and got it so perfect, and he would just destroy the room. And so to get up and just do a new joke after something like that would be, you just, sometimes you would, you know, my problem was, since a lot of times I would run shows, and I always felt like I had to prove something, that I had to be the best comic on the show because I'm the guy that, you know, put it together. And so a lot of times I wouldn't write. I would just do all my A stuff all the time. Even when I had access to stage time, I wouldn't take as much advantage of it. And like with the Zoom thing, it was like it broke me away from that, because nobody was asking me for a spot. And so I was able to concentrate on my material and new stuff and not feel so judged.
Right. Because, you know, it is important to hone your act, but it's also important to be prolific, and you're right. And Greer is the one that told me, Irene, comics are nothing. We're fucking actors. All we do is repeat dialogue. That's what he said to me once. And I'm like, he's right. He's fucking right. So in a sense,
I don't know if I agree with that 100%.
Not 100%.
I think
maybe it was Greer.
I don't know.
Maybe he's projecting.
Yeah, I think we're prophets, and we're people shaking it up, and we're the philosophers of the modern day. So
right, but it is important.
We're paid as such.
Yeah,
we're paid as well.
We don't get murdered as much, thank God. But
but yeah, so I feel like in LA that was like back 20 years ago, it was that issue where it was unstructured. I remember telling my friend when she first came here, I'm not going to say who it was, but she never had a set list. And I was like, you don't have a set list? How the fuck? You're going to get up and what? This isn't therapy. Like it was like a therapy session, But I think
that's the thing too. But one thing though that I noticed through the years is because that alternative comedy movement of the early 90s was a very necessary thing because it was a reaction to the extreme hackiness and misogyny and punching down of what the comedy club scene of the 80s became, with a lot of the one-nighters and stuff, and just all of these terrible comedians, and there had to be kind of an alternative to that. But what I've noticed since then, though, is that a lot of because I mean, I've been around for so long. I've seen so many different generations of comedians, and I think that the generation that came after the alternative comedy movement, they combined the best of both worlds. It's like they did very personal stuff. There was a real premium on being personal and being original. But on the other hand, they understood it as a craft, and they really worked on their act. So I think that whole movement, since it happened, has really borne fruit. And every time and wherever I am, when I go out to comedy clubs, and there are so many comedians that I see that are so good,
it's like
really funny stuff.
Yeah, it's like a punk band that learned how to play their instruments.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's like it's like the Clash, And so, but yeah, I think because I remember when that first scene came out, we all made fun of it because it was just it was regular comedy without the punchlines.
Right. So, it was collective unconscious. You remember that?
Yeah, but a lot of people popped off of that.
Signing up and standing outside, I'd sign up and they'd call my name at fucking 1:30 a.m.
Yeah. Luna Lounge was the shit. That's where Mark Maron and all those guys were.
Yeah. I did that show all the time,
Yeah. So, but I remember I bombed terribly in there because I was a club guy. And so I remember I got, it took me a while to kind of do well in Brooklyn and places where, but I think comics are going to be, if you watch Chris Rock's last special, the one on Netflix where he talks about his divorce and stuff, that's, him kind of becoming evolved in his comedy and, not just, hey, and just you're just stalking the stage and which was amazing. But I feel like this last special was his best, in my opinion.
The alternative rooms were always very critical. I always said, if you could fucking master doing early on in my career, I said, I want to do mainstream comedy and alternative rooms. You had to mix it up, and I always tried to really divide the two, do alternative, do mainstream.
The best comics to me, were club comics who always had that alternative sensibility in their act. Anyway, whether it was Dana Gould or Maria Bamford or Bill Hicks, it's like those people. Like Dana Gould, he came up in clubs, and when I first met him in 1986, he was headlining at the Comedy Gallery in Minneapolis. He was doing incredibly edgy, dangerous stuff at the Saturday night show in the main room. So it's those to me are the best people.
Yeah, Bill Burr. Bill Burr's a club comic.
Bill Burr.
Louis was a club comic.
For girls to do that kind of stuff, though, and still, but I always like the edgier stuff, because it's like you said, otherwise you're in danger of being a fucking hack. The only thing that separates us from each other is our own fresh perspective, what makes us unique. So
yeah, I think I've kind of diffused a little bit of the edge. I'm being myself on stage, but I'm also since the climate that we're in, when I see a comic do some race stuff now, I'm just I was doing that when it felt okay to do it. Lisa Lampanelli was there.
Age.
Like it was like,
Age.
yeah, but now it's like when some guys go in on stuff like that, I'm like, yeah, I don't know if this is, really where you should be headed. But I want to keep my edge. But at the same time, I'm opening for Nate Bargatze, who's kind of, his whole thing is, it's family oriented. So I have to kind of create a set that, it's what I do, but it's also clean. And so, but I like the challenge of trying to kind of be a little broader on stage. Like it's exhausting being edgy all the time.
Yeah, but edgy doesn't have to mean, I think that's
it like killed Bill Hicks, that and the cigarettes, but it's exhausting.
If you're doing like edgy shit, like you're still talking and doing race jokes, I feel like, come on, gauge the
you know what I mean, though? Yeah. One of the things, though, is
Gino Bisconte.
I think we have
exactly.
I think there's a different. I think what people call edgy now is like racist. Sometimes it's just racist and hacky, but they say, "Oh, I'm being edgy. I'm pushing the envelope.
Yeah,
I'm making people uncomfortable because I'm doing racist stuff." But to me, that's not edgy. It's like, for me, it's like. Like people like Maria Bamford and Dana Gould, like or Greg Proops or someone like that. It's like they're edgy because they're being so individualistic on stage.
Right. Yeah, I agree. 100%.
And nobody else is doing,
Yeah, I don't have to offend people to be edgy anymore. I mean, I did a bit on my album where I talked about being so drunk I woke up handcuffed in a hospital bed in a psych ward. I mean, that's pretty edgy. So
exactly.
But it's on me. I talk about being in the psych ward and all this stuff. So it's like, that's way edgier than, Asians can't drive,
exactly.
Or whatever.
And that's what I'm saying too. Exactly. You can be edgy. All those other folks there, like Frank said, they're just, they're not edgy, they're racist, but edginess, I love that. I love that you talk about that stuff. To me, that interests me, especially since there's so much, there's such a spotlight on mental health issues right now. Not only my own personal family, it makes it relatable and it makes us feel like, oh, this person went through that too. Really, it does.
Yeah. I mean, and that's,
off of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the album, it's like I told stories about, my dad, I grew up in a strip club, it's like it started out as a regular bar and then he wasn't making enough money. And so the girlfriend of the biker gang started stripping one night and next thing you know, it's a strip club. And then my mom shut it down. It was like a whole thing in the family, when going on family vacations, my dad got arrested and, just stuff that's like ridiculous that a kid shouldn't have had to see.
Right.
The fact that I wasn't doing comedy off of that was just, Vic was the best thing it ever said to me. Rest in peace. That was, so, but yeah, you can be edgy without,
and it's funny, Dustin, that what Vic said to you came back, and it's exactly what you did in your Zoom album,
Yeah, it was kind of my tribute to him.
It's interesting.
I did a shout out to him. I felt like it was,
Oh, you did?
He really, it was something that affected me, and so it was a good thing. And he was a good friend. I miss him dearly. It's going to be weird not having him around. He was such a fun guy.
Yeah, and we lost so many comics even during the pandemic.
It's who else? Forget who else.
We're drawing a blank. Don't look at me for any support because I have fucking memory issues. I have blazing ADHD, ADD, and fucking dementia.
Kenny Ortega. Kenny Ortega was a good buddy. He was a comedian. He passed. And
I have to tell you, this is our fate. One day after we're gone, people are going to be like, yeah, and it was so sad that person. Who was that?
Who's that guy in the hat? Who's the guy?
Yeah, you know the one.
The science theater thing. Who was that guy? Who was that girl? She was loud, Staten Island.
Yeah, what was that tank girl? Yeah, she always had her fucking hands out. What's that girl's name? Hands out. They still work. I don't care what anybody says. So this is a funny story. I have to wear these hideous glasses. I don't want to anymore. So I went with Rachel Feinstein. We both are blind as shit. We went yesterday to get to look at LASIK. Maybe we're both going to get LASIK. Her for far away. She's blind as a bat. Me for reading. It turns out the guy says, we can't do anything for you. I was wearing a raincoat. It was like up to my neck, right? Then I go back to ask him a question. My cans were out. I took my raincoat off. He's like, we can definitely help you. Come with me. And Rachel goes, see the cans work. And I go, thank God, sweetie. Hashtag me too.
Yeah, if it works for you, it's that's perfect.
So what do you have going on, sweetie, as we're running out of time? It's been so nice talking to you. I totally miss you, and I miss you more now that I'm actually talking to you. It's crazy.
Yeah, I miss you guys too. So, and I'm going to come back. I'll be back in August. I'm playing Levity Live with TJ, and then and I'll do probably a week in New York. So I'm excited. I've always wanted to be the LA comic that just came to New York and did spots. Like I was always like, I wanted to do that. So I'm doing good. I have a show on Twitch TV. It's an online thing. It's Dustin's Vinyl. You can check that out on Wednesdays. I'm really into records and stuff, and so I talk about my vinyl collection, and then we like feature a record every week. We're doing Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell this week, and that. Kind of stuff.
Speaking of someone who just died, that Jim Steinman just.
Yeah, so we're doing a tribute to him and stuff. And we do a lot of new music, that we're trying to find, get people more interested in. But yeah, it's fun, and I'm just doing Zoom shows, and I'm in LA. I'll be at on Sundays and Thursdays in the Comedy Chateau in North Hollywood. If anybody's out here, come see me. And I'm hustling, doing what I can do.
And that's awesome. I'm so excited. And give your beautiful girl a kiss. What's going? I'm sure she's killing it there too, or she will be soon. As soon as they get to.
She's doing great. She's got shows and stuff. She's doing good. Oh yeah, and buy my album, the Zoom album 2020. Right. You can still buy it. Amazon. Don't be cheap and listen to it on Spotify. Go buy it. The artists make more money. The artists make more money when you buy people. So,
oh my God, thank you. I know, because I was like Spotify, and you're like, no, Irene, not fucking Spotify, iTunes. Okay, Jesus Christ.
iTunes.
I'm like, okay, do iTunes. That's right. Frankie boy, you've got a big show. Frank's been killing it with the Mads too on Zoom.
Oh, nice. Frank's funny on Zoom. I saw you on Zoom once. You were really funny.
Oh, that's like one of the few actual Zoom stand-up shows I did was for the. For QED.
Oh yeah, that was fun.
Mm-hmm.
And that was fun. But this next Tuesday, a week from today, is the next live streaming Mystery Science Theater style show that awesome. Trace, you and I are doing. We're doing a riff of the movie T-Bird Gang from 1959. It's about juvenile delinquents who kill themselves through boredom or something like that.
Sounds like okay, that sounds.
It's not the T-Birds from Greece, is it?
Yeah.
And that's next Tuesday at 8 p.m. Go to eventbrite.com to get tickets are just $10. A portion of them benefits a food shelf in Minnesota. Very cool. And it's a really fun show.
Wow. Awesome.
Okay.
I'm going to be I'm actually at the brokerage. I'm headlining the brokerage on the June 11th. And then I'm doing a couple of gigs with Carmen, where we're headlining, one at the Candlelight Theater on the 17th, and then some other stuff. So I'll be posting them. But guys, this has been so much fun. Dustin, I love that you came on. I want you to come back on. I can't.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you guys. This was great. So good to see you guys.
And Frank, you know how much I love you. I'm going to make it over there. I'm never going to.
I wanted to end the show with another shot of Millie, but she ran away.
Yeah. Oh shit, Millie. Millie's the closer.
She's like I'm union. I got to get out of here.
Like, oh, Frank, are you talking about alternative comedy?
She's out of there. You're walking your cat.
Playing soccer with her fucking poop in the cat box now. She's done with us. Anyway, thank you so much, Frank. I love you. Dustin, thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you guys. A lot of fun.
Thank you. Bye-bye. And we'll see everybody next Tuesday. Mwah.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to the Mother May I podcast with Frank and Irene on Strong Island Entertainment. Check us out next week when Frank and Irene sit down with, you know what? I don't know what these two are going to do next, but we'll see you next week.